In the heart of the African continent, where the savanna stretches out like an endless ocean of golden grass, a towering shadow emerges, an animal that doesn't need to roar to command respect, and whose power is measured in herds that advance like living storms. Its presence dominates the landscape, and although it does not reach the speed of the cheetah, nor possess the imposing nature of the lion, its strength, its endurance, and above all the cohesion of its pack make it an indomitable giant. Wherever they march, they leave a mark that transforms the land, tearing up weeds, stirring up dust, and marking the ground with profound signs that outline the path of an eternal journey, a reminder that the buffalo is a forced nomad. The reins mark their destiny and draw invisible routes that the herd follows with ancient precision, advancing as a single organism that faces scorching heat, treacherous rivers, and territories plagued by predators. Because in Africa, every step is a gamble, and hunger lurks in the shadows while the kings of the savannah wait for the opportunity to break through the wall and take a life. Claws dig into skin, fangs tear through throbbing muscles, and the dust turns red as the lions pounce on the giants' backs, biting and tearing at flesh as the rest of the pack tries to escape. In that instant, the savannah remembers its harshest truth. In the wild, strength dictates destiny, death is as natural as survival, and every moment is marked by decisions that brook no delay or mercy. However, the dangers are not limited to the external environment, because even within the buffalo herd, other battles are fought between hierarchies, alliances, the efforts of females to protect their young, and the cost of the older ones left behind. Yet life also creates unexpected bonds. Surprising pacts emerge, like the one that unites them with birds that clean their wounds and zebras that share their paths, revealing that survival in nature is rarely a solitary endeavor. These bonds show that the pack functions as a collective titan, where power and vulnerability, enemies and allies, are intertwined in a story marked by the constant tension between life and death. And in the midst of this endless march, an unexpected event alters the destiny of a mother and her young. What happens when new life bursts into the heart of migration? To understand this, you have to follow the rhythm of the herd and listen to the deep beat of their bodies moving in unison, a pulse that makes the earth tremble beneath an ocean of hooves as the dark mass moves in close formation, raising a cloud of dust that merges with the horizon. There are thousands of them, and each step resonates like a deep drumbeat marking the pulse of the savannah. The relentless sun beats down on their hardened backs, and the air vibrates with a scorching heat that can exceed 40 degrees, making the ground scorch beneath their feet and each breath feel as heavy as lead. This is how the migration of the giants unfolds, an ancient journey that is repeated year after year in search of water and new pastures, and in which stillness has no place because movement is the only guarantee of survival on these African plains. In the midst of this endless stream, a female buffalo advances alongside her calf, a vigorous youngster who already knows the rhythm of the herd and responds instinctively to the danger lurking in every shadow. The mother carries a weight that defines her pace and her decisions. She pauses for a few seconds while the rest of the group continues on, indifferent, swallowed up by the dust raised by thousands of hooves, and then, amidst the roar of migration, life bursts forth with force among the giants. A baby falls to the ground, wet and trembling, a mere glimmer of fragility in a landscape dominated by force. There's no room for pause, and nature has prepared this little one for nearly 11 months of gestation. Born with firm muscles and ready joints, he is able to stand and walk as soon as he touches the ground, driven by instincts that immediately ignite and connect him to the relentless rhythm of the pack. Urgency drives him to stand. He plants his front legs, but gives way and sinks back to the ground. He tries to get up again, wobbly as the mother approaches and gently nudges him with her snout, orienting his tiny body. Again and again he repeats the effort, each attempt more determined than the last. Finally, supported by his mother's encouragement and guidance, he manages to stand and take his first clumsy steps, steps that seem taught by the savannah itself as he joins the rhythm of the herd. The mother licks it persistently, not only to clean its body, but also to eliminate any trace that might betray its presence to the predators lurking in every shadow of the savanna. The young brother stays close, watching closely as the new life enters the family dynamic, learning to keep pace with the ever-moving group. The mother and her young rejoin the flow of the herd so as not to be left behind, and each step resonates with collective strength, a reminder that there is no respite during migration because every moment demands attention and determination. The hours pass without pause as the herd advances, revealing, with each step, the silent logic that sustains it. The adult males stand at the flanks, firm and vigilant, while the females surround the calves with precise movements that keep them safely at the heart of the group. The young push and stumble in clumsy games that unwittingly prepare them for the demanding pace of the march. The older ones keep time with their steady gait, and deep bellows rise from their chests, echoing across the savanna, holding the herd together. Amidst this network of strength and care, new life does not walk alone, but is sustained by the protection of its own people and by the collective impulse that guides the giants on their eternal journey. But the lull in migration never lasts. Soon, the mass of bodies enters a territory marked by violence. They don't realize it yet, but they have entered the land of Africa's big cats, where every shadow can hide a predator and every silence can herald death. Signs of danger spread everywhere. Sun-bleached bones scatter across the earth like silent warnings. Further on, the fresh carcasses of zebras and wildebeests are devoured by swarms of flies, and above them vultures tear at the flesh with their heavy beaks. Around them some jackals prowl cautiously, but they retreat when they sense the buffalo approaching. The air itself seems impregnated with a metallic smell that carries the indelible trace of blood. And the whole place becomes a forbidden corridor, an open cemetery in the savanna. Still, there's no alternative. The buffalo must cross this terrain because they need to feed and take advantage of every available grazing land to maintain the herd's strength. They cannot wait until they reach the river or the green pastures, and going around this stretch would mean depriving themselves of food and risking exhaustion under the relentless sun. Each step brings them closer to essential resources and, at the same time, exposes them to danger, reminding them that survival requires moving forward even when a threat looms on the horizon. The need to continue feeding and protecting themselves at the same time transforms every movement into a collective effort, and so the herd advances like an unstoppable force. More than 2,000 individuals march in a compact front, advancing with determination like a dark wave spreading over the savanna. At first glance, it might seem like an advantage, an insurmountable wall, but the lions know the truth. For them, the crowd is not an obstacle, but an opportunity. Decades of hunting have taught them that the herd always breaks at its weakest point. In the tall grass, the females wait, moving in a coordinated and almost invisible manner, each muscle tensed like a bow about to be fired. There is no noise between them, only glances and bated breath, while behind at a distance the alpha male watches without launching himself into the fight or wasting his strength on the first attack. He watches and measures, letting his subordinates wear down his prey before intervening. He is merely the shadow that guards the feast. Suddenly, the tense calm that had gathered in the tall grass is broken. A roar bursts through the air like a flash of lightning, and from the thicket the lions burst forth with deadly speed. The entire savanna explodes into chaos as the buffalo bellow loudly, lifting their hooves off the ground and trailing clouds of dust that blind and confuse. Herd discipline slowly breaks down, mothers lose contact with their young, and entire groups scatter, running in opposite directions, driven by instinct and the urge to survive. In the midst of the whirlwind, the female is isolated along with her two cubs. The lions have achieved their objective, separating the most vulnerable. 3 females pounce on the group, their golden eyes fixed on the young buffalo, assessing every move. The female responds with suppressed fury. Her gigantic body intervenes, her horns low and her muscles tense like steel. She advances, snorts that rumble like thunder filling the air. The first lioness nimbly dodges, the second circles the buffalo's flank, probing its exposed flank as dust rises with each stride and swipe. A moment of tension hangs in the air. The female blocks each attack, her eyes shining with determination. The third lioness approaches, calculating, and the cloud of dust mixes with the scent of sweat and blood. Every breath, every bellow, every blast of the horn feels amplified. The ground shakes under the clash of enormous forces, and time seems to slow down as the fight for survival reaches its climax. The newborn cub is paralyzed by panic, inert, unable to move. His older brother takes a few steps forward, bewildered, too close to the enemy line, and then the unexpected happens. The mother, in a desperate act, pushes the newborn baby to the ground. The gesture is no accident. It's a brutal, instinctive decision, sealed in an instant. With a bellow, she turns and flees with the strongest cub. The strategy is clear: sacrifice the weakest to save the one that still has a chance of resisting. The lions pounce on the small victim, their claws digging into the tender skin while their fangs tear at the fresh flesh. Savage roars mingle with muffled shrieks, and the dust clouds turn red. The feast has begun, and nothing seems able to stop it. Predators writhe, overlapping one another, tearing and devouring, each bite a triumph of the hunter's age-old strategy. On the savannah, there is no cruelty, only the implacable logic of survival. One life is lost so that another may continue. A young animal becomes blood, flesh, energy that prolongs the lives of hunters and their cubs. And on the dam side, a sacrifice ensures the continuity of the line, even if it means giving up what is most cherished. The female buffalo doesn't look back. Her muscles tremble, her breathing is labored, but her steps don't slow down. Beside her, the young calf runs, still confused but alive. Together, they manage to rejoin the herd, which slowly resumes its journey. Today, they have survived. But the migration has only just begun. Endless miles await them, and each day brings new trials, new threats, new impossible decisions. The herd continues its advance, but the memory of what happened doesn't fade. Every shadow in the grass, every distant sound reminds the survivors that the threat is still lurking. Surviving one day doesn't guarantee the next. And it is precisely in this constant danger that the true strength of the African buffalo emerges. It lies not in the size of its horns or the power of its muscles, but in the unity of the group, in the silent synchronicity that allows them to face any challenge together. African buffalo herds can number in the hundreds, even thousands, and among them each individual does not exist on its own because identity is collective, and survival depends on staying together, advancing as a single organism that feels and responds to the heartbeat of the savannah. The tragedy of a lost individual, like the offspring left behind, is painful and brutal, but it does not define the behavior of the entire species. The pack instinct goes beyond sacrifice because when danger threatens, the strongest males and females advance to the edges of the group and form a living wall, turning outwards with their horns ready, their muscles tense and their eyes fixed on the threat. And within that circle, the sick, the elderly and the young are sheltered. Their gigantic bodies intertwine in a perfect unity, each movement coordinated, each gesture a response to the approaching danger, creating a wall that feels almost impenetrable. In that instant, a ring of giants stands firm, ready to resist fiercely, and against that collective strength even the lions falter. It is not unusual for up to 40% of hunting attempts to fail when the buffalo remain united. This living wall is sustained not only by numbers, but also by the weapons each buffalo carries. Their massive, curved horns are their most distinctive feature, formed of keratin, but hardened to the point of becoming lethal. In adult males, they can exceed a meter in length and join at the base to form a veritable armor, capable of withstanding charges and collisions. From the age of 2, young children begin to develop these structures, which eventually reach their peak between the ages of 5 and 7. At that moment, the horns become deadly weapons, and a single swing is enough to snap bones, tear muscles, and throw a reckless predator into the air. For lions, a single mistake doesn't just mean losing the hunt, but also risking their lives against the might of a buffalo. But it's not just about defense. In a buffalo herd, each member contributes something beyond brute strength. The elderly, though weakened by the passing of time, still remember the routes to hidden water sources and the grasslands that reappear after the rains. Adult females circulate among them, ensuring that the young are not left behind, guiding their steps with firm and vigilant patience. The males, with their imposing size and ready horns, position themselves at the edges of the group, ready to face any threat, forming a front line that protects everyone else. Every movement is coordinated. Every gesture is part of a collective organism that beats in unison, where individual strength is subordinated to the survival of the whole. But unlike other species, there is no single leader dictating the route or setting the pace. Leadership emerges spontaneously, as if the herd were breathing and thinking in unison. Every decision is made instantly. A change of posture, a subtle bellow, a twist of the body of one of the most attentive members can alter the direction of hundreds of animals. The timing is so precise that the pack adjusts to every obstacle in the terrain, every approaching threat, and responds with a silent coordination that seems almost magical. In this harmony, collective intelligence manifests itself, invisible but tangible, guiding the herd effectively across the vast savanna, without any individual taking center stage, but ensuring the survival of all. The pack, then, is not simply a collection of individuals, since losing an elder means not only leaving behind a weakened life, but also breaking the collective memory that guides the group in times of need. And losing a young person isn't just sacrificing a weak link, it's sacrificing the continuity of the blood that keeps the pack strong. The essence of their survival lies in this balance. The African savanna is unforgiving, and every day presents life or death dilemmas. However, the buffalo has shown that loyalty can also be an evolutionary weapon. While some predators rely on speed or stealth, buffalo rely on something more invisible but equally powerful: the certainty that no member will be left behind as long as the group can hold on. It's a striking contrast to other species that, on the planet's vast plains, choose to sacrifice the weakest to keep pace. Caribou, on their long migrations, leave behind those who cannot bear the march because stopping would be the doom of the entire group. Wildebeest, crossing crocodile-infested rivers, do not look back to see who has fallen behind. But on the savanna, buffalo demonstrate a different logic. The strength of many can defend even the most vulnerable, and this cohesion has ensured their survival for thousands of years against predators that, in isolation, seem invincible. And as the dust rises beneath their steps, another dimension of this silent pact is revealed. The buffalo are not alone on their journey. On the surface of their skin, on their backs and around their bodies, other companions have learned to march alongside them in an unexpected alliance that transforms the way they confront the savanna. What creatures dare to ride the African titan and share with him the secrets of survival? They are not simple insects that pass by and go, nor ephemeral shadows that disappear with the wind. They are patient and constant allies, birds that have forged a millennia-old pact with the buffalo. Only then, as one focuses, do the oxpeckers reveal themselves, marching firmly on the backs of the giants, leaping from one hump to another, exploring cracks in the skin and the edges of scars like someone browsing an endless food market. In the African savanna, this alliance is so ancient that it seems an inseparable part of the landscape. Oxpeckers comprise two species closely related to the large ungulates. The red-billed and yellow-billed oxpeckers have made buffalo hide their mobile food. There they find ticks attached like small black stones, larvae hiding in moist folds, fleas that bite incessantly, and dead skin remnants that irritate and promote infections. Even poorly healed wounds, where the scab breaks open and bleeds, become a food source. The birds peck with precision, extract and crush, and when the food is liquid, they drink tirelessly. For the buffalo, the presence of these birds is not a nuisance but a necessary relief, because it recognizes in each peck a task it could not perform on its own. There are areas of the body that he can't reach with his tongue or paws. His back and neck are unreachable terrain. The base of his horns, the upper part of his back, and the junction with his flanks are outside his proper grooming. Buffalo try to scratch themselves against trees and trunks, but these resources are uncertain, and the journey doesn't allow for long breaks. Ticks latch on tightly and proliferate in the warmth of the fur. Where birds are present, the parasite load is reduced, irritation lessens, and the likelihood of infection is attenuated. It's a tangible relief that translates into less itching, less anemia from blood loss, and animals with more energy to run and defend themselves. Why did the birds choose buffalo as partners? On a continent where food can become scarce and competition fierce, following a massive herd is a surefire strategy. An oxpecker that learns to stay with a herd finds constant food without expending enormous energy searching for it. Those who adopted this lifestyle had more offspring and improved survival rates. At the same time, flocks that tolerated these birds gained a silent advantage. Fewer parasites mean fewer diseases, and fewer diseases translate into greater resilience to drought or attacks. Little by little, what began as opportunistic exploitation became a stable relationship that natural selection strengthened. Not everything is purely beneficial, because sometimes the birds become insistent and cause pain by opening scabs to access blood, a behavior that some studies interpret as parasitic. There are also risks when many birds concentrate on a single wound, but evolutionary balance favors coexistence. Healthy flocks recover tissue, maintain vigor, and collectively their ability to defend the herd is strengthened. Birds, for their part, have a reliable supply of protein that feeds nests and young. Beyond food, there is a less obvious but crucial service. Oxpeckers act as sentinels. They perch high, watch, emit short calls at strange sounds, and with their restless activity, attract the attention of buffalo to spots they might otherwise miss. A recurring croak may be the first alarm bell to warn you of the presence of a hyena approaching from the shadows. It's not a foolproof security system, but it adds valuable seconds in a world where moments decide lives. The image is powerful and paradoxical. An animal weighing almost a ton depends on the delicate beak of a bird that weighs little more than an ounce. That minimal cooperation changes the fate of both. While the buffalo advance, the oxpeckers carry on their tireless work, weaving health into an immense body. However, not all of the African titan's allies are small and feathered. At his side, running through grass and shadows, other silhouettes appear, marching with a different purpose, though similar to his own. The zebras burst into the landscape like living stripes that glide alongside the herd, stripes that blend into the dark mass and, at the same time, act like a moving radar. Both species advance together through the same trials, drying up rivers, disappearing pastures, and the incessant search for water and food. Over time, this closeness ceased to be a coincidence and became a shared strategy. But what does each of them really get from this unlikely alliance? Zebras provide what buffalo lack, a vigilant instinct that never rests. Their large, sideways eyes scan the savanna in all directions, and their ears, always restless and mobile, capture even the slightest rustle of wind against the grass. Nothing escapes their feverish attention. Wherever a lioness glides silently, the slight movement of a tail or the abnormal curve of a bent grass is enough to betray her presence. Then the zebras tense, raise their heads in unison, and let out a short, dry snort that bursts like a warning shot in the silence. Sometimes the threat doesn't even emerge from the ground because all it takes is a sudden flight of scavengers to arouse suspicion, and then the zebras look up, interpret the signal, and respond with a coordination that seems to spring from a shared pulse. That early warning is worth gold to the buffalo. A snap, a gesture, a few seconds of anticipation can make the difference between escape and being caught. Buffaloes are animals of enormous size and large body mass. Their frontal field of vision is more limited compared to that of zebras. Their attention is focused on the pace, the food, and the rhythm of the herd. This is why outside perception is essential for them. A zebra's alarm causes the adults at the edge to tense their muscles, turn their heads, and close up the formation. The wall that has so often protected the flock is formed not only by strength, but by the information that arrives before the predator makes its first move. It's not a selfless favor. Zebras don't escort buffalo out of kindness. By walking alongside massive herds, zebras gain security. Lions and hyenas assess risks and rewards. An attack on a mixed pack involves facing a block of large bodies with horns at the ready. In this way, proximity offers zebras a tactical refuge that increases their chances of reaching the next section of the route alive. The association has another practical interpretation. Both herbivores feed on grasses, but their selection differs enough to reduce direct competition. Zebras tend to root through long, coarse grasses that are often off-target to other species, while buffalo prefer shorter, denser surfaces. This complementary food supply facilitates coexistence during the longest stretches of migration. The alliance between zebras and buffalo is in essence a silent negotiation between necessity and benefit. There are no permanent contracts or truces, only behaviors that natural selection has fine-tuned into strategy. The entire savanna pulsates with relationships of this kind, invisible plots where survival is woven through the most pragmatic cooperation. But not everything is harmony, because cooperation between species, so vital in the savanna, is never absolute. What seems like an unbreakable alliance also harbors invisible fissures, tensions that arise when interests clash. In the case of buffalo and zebras, collaboration coexists with competition, because in an environment as hostile as this, no relationship can be sustained without conflict. Zebras often lead the way during migrations. They arrive first in the grasslands, consuming large expanses of fresh grass as they go. By the time the buffalo arrive with their thousands of hungry mouths, much of the food has already disappeared. For a species that depends on enormous amounts of vegetation daily, this time difference becomes a sentence of renewed stress each year. Carpooling doesn't mean equal benefits. While the zebras get to eat first, the buffalo must make do with what's left. The buffalo's weight also imposes its own costs. Each individual can weigh over 700 kilos, and as they advance en masse, they compact the soil, erode it, and uproot young grasses. What for them is simply a natural migration path, for zebras represents degraded terrain, where grass takes longer to grow and the quality of forage decreases. Thus, what the zebras take from the buffalo in food, the buffalo give back in the transformation of the landscape, a silent tension in which none emerges unscathed. Water, the supreme source of life in the savanna, is the source of the greatest friction. When rivers narrow during the dry season, drinking places become arenas of direct competition. The buffalo, due to their size and cohesion, burst into the water en masse and take over the bank. The zebras, smaller and more vulnerable, must wait on the margins. Dust rises with each footfall of the giants, the mud churns beneath their hooves, and only when the dark tide recedes do the zebras dare to approach. In those moments, the supposed alliance reveals its true nature, a coexistence marked by both assistance and imposition. Yet in the fabric of the savanna, these contradictions are part of a larger balance. Oxpeckers, zebras, and even other species that cross the same path end up weaving with the buffalo a web of alliances and frictions that sustain life in motion. There is no solitude possible in this environment because survival is built on invisible collaborations, albeit punctuated by inevitable conflicts. The alliance between zebras and buffalo is, in essence, a silent negotiation between necessity and benefit. There are no permanent contracts or truces, only behaviors that natural selection has fine-tuned into strategy. The entire savanna pulsates with relationships of this kind, invisible plots where survival is woven through the most pragmatic cooperation. But when night falls and the dark cloak envelops every grass and every shadow, the daytime calm is broken, a new order appears, and creatures emerge that lurk with the precision that only darkness grants, and then the question arises: who dares to walk among giants without being seen? After a long journey under the relentless sun, the buffalo finally find a clearing to stop. Their heavy footsteps raise clouds of dust that slowly dissipate as their exhausted bodies search for relief. The females gather around their young, the males stand at the edges, vigilant even when resting, and silence seems to envelop the savanna like a blanket. But the stillness is deceptive. A faint rustling in the tall grass, a scent floating in the air, something hidden from view causes the buffalo to tense their muscles again, raising their heads in alert. Something is approaching, though no one can yet see it clearly. Amidst the shadows and gloom, a murmur rises, a sound that repeats itself and multiplies, first distant, then closer. Tension grows. Every fiber of the pack vibrates in unison, prepared for the unexpected. As night falls over the savanna, laughter begins to emerge from the darkness, short, dry, chilling. The hyenas emerge like ghosts, advancing with a silent discipline that turns every movement into a threat. Their eyes reflect the starlight, their bodies glide through the grass, and every laugh announces that the hunt has begun. The air is thick with danger as the strong, united buffalo sense the threat approaching with measured steps and know exactly who they are looking for in the heart of the herd, where they find staggering calves, sick animals, and old warriors with tired bodies. Each one is a target, a prize that can feed an entire pack. It doesn't matter if the meat is lean or the bones are tough, because for hyenas, each weak prey represents a feast with less risk than facing a full-grown adult. But the buffalo aren't naive. As the night progresses, their instincts dictate how to strengthen their defenses. The youngest and most vulnerable are placed at the heart of the herd, protected by the strongest and most robust individuals who stand at the edges, alert to any sign of danger. Sometimes a male stands on the fringes, staring into the darkness, ready to charge at anyone who comes too close. Their tactic is simple but effective: maintain the defense until dawn dissolves the threat. In the midst of this tension, an old buffalo, marked by scars and with a clumsy gait, is left behind. His breathing is heavy, his legs tremble. The hyenas detect it instantly. They surround it, harass it, launch quick bites at its flanks, retreat, and attack again. The old man fights with everything he has left. He lunges in circles, he shakes his head, but every second weakens him. The herd moves on, and for a moment it seems doomed to an inevitable end. The savanna holds its breath. The hyenas laugh wildly, confident of their victory. But then, a sound breaks the darkness, a thunderclap of hooves like thunder rising from the earth. The pack has returned. Dozens of buffalo rush forward, forming a living wall that advances without mercy. The hyenas, surprised, retreat, and the old man remains protected in the center while the strongest ones charge again and again, dispersing the attackers. The battle ends as quickly as it began. The hyenas fade into the shadows, their laughter turning into shrieks of frustration. The old man, exhausted, trembles but still breathes. He wouldn't have survived alone, but on the savanna even the weakest find strength in the cohesion of the pack. That is the buffalo's true weapon, unity. However, night has not yet completely subsided. Among the bushes, a few hyenas remain at a distance, their eyes glowing like glowing embers as they gauge the pack's every move and look for the opportunity for one last attack. The buffalo, aware of their presence, remain vigilant for a few moments longer, sniffing the air and listening for the echoes of distant laughter. But the hours pass, and little by little the laughter fades, turning first into murmurs and finally into silence, as if the night itself recognized that the pack has won the game. With the last vestiges of threat dissipating, the pack gradually relaxes. Some animals lie down, others shake their fur with slow movements, and the collective breathing calms. As the first glimmer of dawn tinges the horizon, the buffalo resume their march. They have survived the darkness, but now face another pressing need: food. After hours of vigil and combat, the pack needs to regain its strength. The fresh morning grass, the shoots emerging with the dew, become the next target, because in Africa survival never stops. Every night brings a battle, and every dawn a new challenge. And as the sun begins to rise, the buffalo continue moving forward, guided by hunger and hope, unaware of what trials the day that is just beginning will impose on them. Now the heat dictates the rules. The buffalo must slow down, search for food, and replenish their strength. They cannot advance uninterruptedly to their destination. Their enormous size requires constant grazing, frequent watering, and rest periods. They stop in fields of grass that at first glance seem to offer plenty. Young shoots and low bushes are torn away with slow movements of their powerful snouts, and little by little the landscape begins to transform. Such a large group can destroy an entire area in just a few hours, leaving behind a trail that reveals the power of their collective appetite. This dynamic, though voracious, is an essential part of the savanna's balance. Where buffalo clear the grasslands, new grasses will soon sprout, renewing the cycle that will feed others. But calm is an illusion. Every plot of land they step on, every patch of shadow on the horizon, already belongs to someone. A clan of wild dogs could be just a kilometer away. A pride of lions, perhaps, lurks in the nearby bush. Nothing in these lands is truly neutral. Staying in any one place for too long is, for the buffalo, a sure death sentence. On the vast plain, even the most peaceful places hide traps. After feeding, the need for water becomes overwhelming. The sun is scorching, and the heat immediately dries out their throats, but a nearby quiet river, free of birds and other animals, seems the perfect answer for these animals. The surface of the water is calm, with no signs of danger, inviting you to drink. A small group advances cautiously, but a young, less experienced buffalo moves ahead. He approaches the shore and plunges his paws into the water, unaware of what might happen. Two adult buffaloes watch him from a distance. They don't take a step. Their instincts tell them to be cautious. The excessive stillness of the place doesn't inspire confidence. Then it happens. A wave breaks the calm of the surface, and a gigantic crocodile emerges brutally, opening its jaws wide. The young man barely has time to react as the water churns into foam and muffled roars. The predator grabs the buffalo's leg and drags it forcefully into the depths. The animal struggles, kicks, tries to free itself, but the reptile's jaws close like steel traps. The two adults watching slowly retreat. They've realized what their doubts had already warned them about. Those calm waters belong to a monster who knows the migration patterns by heart. Crocodiles have learned that to get prey, all you have to do is wait. Sooner or later, an unsuspecting young person will always get too close. On the savannah, intuition saves lives, but naivety, on the other hand, is a sure ticket to death. The rest of the herd moves away from the river with a murmur of anxiety. The buffalo know they can't stay there. The crocodile's shadow isn't the only threat. As night falls, other forces will claim that territory: lions, wild dogs, hyenas. Every corner of the savannah now has a master, and no place can offer permanent refuge. The lesson is clear. To pause too long is to yield to death. Thus the herd compacts again, reorganizes, and with a firm step resumes its march. The horizon begins to expand, and with it the promise that the destination is ever closer. The journey has claimed lives and tested everyone's endurance, but collective strength still drives the pack forward. The group moves forward together, more united than ever. They feel it. They sense it. The journey is about to end. A little over 7 days have passed since they left the cracked lands that the sun punished mercilessly. 7 days of thirst, treacherous rivers, nocturnal hyenas, and patient crocodiles. And yet they endured. The first signs that something is changing come in scattered signals, a murmur in the air, the flight of waterfowl in the distance. Then a distinct, fresh scent carried by the wind. And finally, the most obvious. On the horizon rises a blanket of green, a vibrant contrast against the infinite aridity they left behind. Destiny reveals itself not as a sudden miracle, but as a certainty that gradually invades the herd. The pace quickens. Tired bodies find new strength in the promise of what lies ahead. And when they finally cross the last dusty hill, they discover it all. Endless grasslands stretching as far as the eye can see. A fertile land crossed by a river that meanders beneath the bright, generous sun. Here, life teems. The herd disperses for the first time in days. It no longer needs to stay compact to endure. Each buffalo finds its own space. Some bury their snouts in the tender grass and devour it eagerly, while others approach the water, where their bodies are reflected in the trembling surface of the river. The young, finally freed from the tension that kept them glued to their mother's flanks, frolic clumsily in a game that restores calm to the plain. But the buffalo are not alone. Zebras, antelopes, and even elephants flock to the same place, attracted by the abundance. Here wealth does not belong to just one species, but is shared among all. Predators, on the other hand, are scarce. Big cats avoid these open areas where their stealth skills are rendered useless. The hyenas prowl, but at a distance, not daring to challenge the solidity of a rested and alert pack. Here, the feeling of relative security settles like a balm after days of uncertainty, and the buffalo know how to take advantage of the respite. Their exhausted bodies need to regain their strength, and this place offers everything they need: water, grass, space, and peace. Under this peaceful atmosphere, life unfolds in many ways. The young discover the strength in their fragile bodies as they alternate between their mother's milk and the first shoots of fresh grass. Beside them, the females lick the marks left by an exhausting journey, signs of endurance rather than defeat. Among them all are the big males, who don't need to prove anything. Their imposing appearance is enough to keep the hierarchy intact, even when abundance seems to soften everything. Some remain vigilant. Even in this apparent paradise, they know that the wild realm never offers unconditional gifts. The calm that surrounds them is fragile, and in the sky that truth is announced by the vultures that patiently circle above the herd. There are no immediate predators, but death always remains close, waiting for its moment to strike. The migration has not been in vain. They have left behind the scarcity, the ambushes, the nights harassed by hyenas. They have survived rivers where crocodiles lurked and territories where every kilometer was disputed by other hunters. Now the pack has what it was looking for, the promise of renewed life. This place represents more than food or water. It's the triumph of collective resistance. Every step, every loss, every night of fear has led them here. In the vastness of the Savanna, the herd has demonstrated that its strength lies not only in its horns, but in the unity that keeps them moving. But in nature, abundance is never synonymous with peace. In this same fertile territory, other problems are just beginning. Here, where the grass is softer and the water clearer, males compete violently for the right to mate. The clash of bodies resonates like thunder across the plain. The final destination, the place the flock has fought so hard to achieve, hides its own trap. The most difficult challenges are not left behind. They are brewing within paradise itself. At the heart of the group, tensions take on new forms. It's no longer a matter of weathering the heat or avoiding ambushes, but rather of defining which males are accepted by the females in heat. African buffalo reproduction doesn't follow equal rules. Some individuals mate with several females in the same season, while others remain unnoticed or wait for their opportunity. Power is not distributed randomly, it is conquered, defended, and also lost. Females, far from being passive receivers, exercise careful selection. They seek out the most impressive males, not only for their body size, but also for the strength of their horns and the solidity of their boss, that bony mass crowning their foreheads that reveals age and experience. Their selection guides every move and every decision within the herd. When a female is receptive, she approaches the male she considers capable of protecting her. She remains at his side longer, reduces the physical distance, and accepts his company, communicating her decision without words. Breeding with the right individual isn't a whim. It means increasing the likelihood that your offspring will survive in a world where every day is a test of endurance. Courtship is subtle, laden with codes that only buffalo understand. Males persistently sniff the female's rear ends, searching for chemical signals that confirm the fertile moment. The females respond by moving with a different cadence, slowing down their pace and allowing the chosen one to approach. This silent ritual is often enough to consolidate the bond, but when two males agree on their intentions, tension becomes inevitable and palpable in every gesture of the flock. In the open meadow, under a sun that is beginning to set, two colossi challenge each other. The first, a veteran male, enormous with scars that speak of past confrontations. The second, younger, vigorous, with the ambition of someone who has not yet tasted the glory of domination. Both snort, lower their heads, and scratch the ground with their hooves. The dust rises as if heralding a storm. The herd forms a circle, and far from being frightened by the growing conflict, the females watch expectantly. The ritual begins cautiously, sideways walks, fixed gazes, movements that seem to measure strength without touching. But the tension grows and suddenly the silence is broken by a loud crash. The horns meet in a brutal clash. The vibration is transmitted through the ground. The bodies stagger with the violence of the impact. The air is filled with deep grunts and snorts. For minutes, the two rivals push, retreat, and charge again. Dust clouds vision. Dark skin glistens with sweat, and every breath is a roar. Finally, the young man gives in. He takes a few steps back, tilts his head, and accepts defeat without further bloodshed. The victor stands tall, panting, his head held high. The females, as if they had been waiting, approach him, recognizing his victory as a sign of his strength. There was no need to kill each other because in the logic of the pack, there's no point in losing a valuable warrior. Violence reaches its limit and then it stops. But not all males have the opportunity to fight such battles. The weaker ones, the very young, or those already weakened by age, find little opportunity to compete. Many of them group together in so-called bachelor clans, peripheral bands that roam alongside the main pack. There they wait, learning, strengthening their bodies, and betting that an opportunity will arise when a dominant male falls or when a female ventures away from the watchful eye of the winning male. Others resort to stealthy strategies, approaching silently, attempting to mate when they are not looking, risking expulsion if discovered. Most of the time, these tactics fail to upset the balance. The hierarchy is clear, though not immutable. As the seasons pass, a male ages, tires, and his dominance falters. Then another, younger one takes his place, and so the wheel of life turns, ensuring that only the fittest pass on their genes. Paradoxically, this fierce competition doesn't destroy herd cohesion. Fighting has unspoken limits. The goal is to command respect, not to cause casualties that weaken the group, because in the end, the strength of each male depends on the strength of the entire pack. Cooperation and unity remain the key to survival in a territory where predators never rest. However, this tension between internal struggle and collective solidarity sometimes breaks down. All it takes is for one individual, defeated or marginalized, to disperse too far for the balance to be upset. And it's in these crevices that danger lies. Because when a buffalo is isolated, far from the protection of its companions, the lions sense an opportunity. What happens when the same competition that defines the lives of buffalo pushes one of them straight into the jaws of predators? A young male strays from the herd. Perhaps he's looking for fresher grass, or perhaps curiosity drives him to explore a stream hidden in the bushes. His instinct doesn't detect danger. The place seems harmless, with tall grass gently swaying and a heavy silence where the usual birdsong warning of threats can't be heard. This calm, however, awakens a barely perceptible sense of suspicion. In the shadows, a lion watches. It's not an alpha and lacks a mane, and its movements reveal the insecurity of youth. It follows the herd from afar, measuring every gesture, assessing the strength of the group, and looking for the moment when an individual becomes isolated. Patient and tense, he adapts to the terrain and the wind, accumulating hours of waiting while he learns, observes, and calculates. The young buffalo lowers its head to pluck tender shoots. Its concentration is complete, ignoring the gaze that stalks it through the grass. A tiny hint breaks the calm, a slight tremor in the grass, barely a strange movement that should have alerted him, but is too subtle. And just then, the predator pounces. The leap is brutal. Its claws grip the creature's back, its fangs searching for its neck. The buffalo bellows loudly, a deep sound that shakes the air. His hind legs tense, he shakes violently, trying to free himself from that lethal weight. The lion digs deeper, confident that strength and technique will bring him victory. But this task is more difficult than he thought, because his target isn't an antelope or a swift gazelle. The buffalo is a giant. Its thick hide is resilient, its muscles are powerful, and its horns, even in a struggle, pose a mortal risk to the feline. The duel turns into a battle of endurance. Every second that passes, the lion's roar mingles with the desperate bellows of its prey. Those bellows aren't in vain. The herd, far away, is listening. And then what happens is what makes buffalo a force unlike any other herbivore: the immediate response. A group of adults, led by several males, rushes toward the scene of the attack. They don't hesitate, they don't waver. They run like a united front, raising a cloud of dust with each step. When they arrive, the scene changes suddenly. The lion, until then secure, finds himself completely cornered. The charges soon begin. One of the buffaloes charges with all its might, and the lion is thrown, spinning in the air before crashing to the ground. Another strikes him with its horns, barely grazing his side, but enough to open a deep wound. The scene is violent and fast-paced. A feared predator suddenly becomes prey. The lion tries to recover, but each time he approaches the wounded buffalo, he collides with a wall of bodies and horns. Another charge nearly knocks him down, and the feline realizes the risk. The herd does not disperse, and every passing second increases the pressure and the possibility that the attack will end in their own deaths. Eventually, the lion gives ground. He staggers back, his breath labored. A final bellow from the buffalo forces him to flee. He limps away, covered in dust and blood, the lesson etched in his mind. Facing a buffalo without allies is never a safe move, and facing the entire herd is practically a fatal risk. The attacked male remains standing. His back is stained with blood, with deep grooves in the skin where the claws had sunk in. But he's alive. His wounds aren't fatal. His companions surround him, escorting him back to the group. In the brutal logic of the Savanna, this outcome is a victory. It's in moments like this that buffaloes show why they're different from other herbivores. Gazelles run, zebras flee. They, on the other hand, fight. They never abandon their own. They even confront the king of predators and often succeed. Their physical strength is imposing, but what truly makes them fearsome is their instinct for mutual protection, that cohesion that turns every attack into a major risk for anyone who dares. For this reason, lions rarely insist on hunting adult buffalo in these areas. They prefer to ambush isolated individuals or target the cubs. The power of the herd forces them to calculate, to seek out less dangerous prey. The lesson is clear. Buffalo are not easy prey, and every attempt to hunt them can end in tragedy for the predator. The day progresses. Calm gradually returns to the herd. The wounded male rejoins the group, and with him the march continues through the grasslands. For weeks and months, this place will provide them with what they need to live: food, water, and time for new lives to be born and others to grow. Here, in this refuge, the buffalo consolidate their strength. But the inevitable question arises: how long can this calm last? What fate awaits the young born on these plains when the time comes to face the challenges of the savanna on their own? Time has passed since that confrontation in which the pack demonstrated its strength against a lone predator. Now, with the immediate threat of lions contained and abundance still present in these lands, a period of relative calm begins. For the buffalo, this is not a definitive victory, but rather a respite granted by nature, a time in which life in all its forms can flourish. On these plains, routine prevails day after day, but it's not an empty or mechanical routine. The buffalo stay here for 4 to 6 months, depending on the duration of the rains and how generous the land is in keeping its pastures green and the watering holes full. These are intense months, not of constant movement, but of consolidation, of strengthening bonds, of preparing young people, and of ensuring the continuity of the species. Beyond feeding and drinking, the herd's social life unfolds in many ways. The youngest, born in previous seasons, spend much of the day playing. At first glance, it might seem like simple entertainment, but it's actually vital training. They run against each other, test their strength in clumsy charges, and practice pushing and twisting, which will be decisive in the future when they have to defend themselves against a lion or compete for a female. In the midst of these races, some test the authority of their elders, assessing their place in the future hierarchy of the herd. Others groom each other, strengthening bonds as they observe and learn from those around them. Every fall, every evasion, and every gesture of dominance is part of a silent school that prepares them for adult life. Meanwhile, the adults watch. The females keep an eye on things, but they don't usually interfere. They know these games are necessary. Young males who have not yet reached maturity participate enthusiastically, testing their strength in controlled clashes, but without the violence of real confrontations. Everything happens under the watchful eye of the pack, which as a whole maintains cohesion. Among these animals, the group is everything, and even in moments of calm, that truth remains intact. In the midst of this routine, extraordinary moments occur. A female moves away from the group, seeking a space of relative privacy. She's about to give birth. The process is rapid, almost always silent, barely interrupted by the occasional snort and the protective instinct that surrounds her. Soon, the baby falls to the damp ground, still wrapped in the remains of birth. The mother is quick to lick it persistently, stimulating its breathing, cleansing its skin, and establishing an indestructible bond. The newborn tries to stand up. His legs are fragile and shaky, unable yet to support his weight. He stumbles, falls, tries again. Each attempt is a small battle against gravity, against the initial clumsiness of a body that must urgently get used to life. The mother remains by his side, providing warmth and protection, while a nearby male calmly watches, ready to intervene if the situation requires it. With great effort, the baby manages to get up, wobbly but steady. Barely a few minutes after its birth, it's already standing. In the savanna, there is no time for prolonged fragility. Survival demands speed. It demands being prepared almost from the first breath. This seemingly simple moment encompasses all the grandeur of wildlife. There is no drama, but a silent, almost ritualistic continuity. Life finds its way, and the herd cycle is renewed once more. It's a natural contrast to the tragedies that sometimes occur in these lands, a reminder that the African plains also hold room for hope. The months pass. The sunny days begin to become more intense. The shadows of the trees become increasingly contested refuges, and the puddles that were once abundant slowly begin to shrink. The grass, which at first grew thick and green, begins to dry out, becoming rough, brittle, and less nutritious. After 6 months, the pack seems to instinctively understand that the cycle has changed and it's time to move on again. Thus, the moment of return migration is imposed once again. The grass is dying under the relentless sun, water is scarce, and abundance gives way to need. Nothing in this wild domain remains static, and the buffalo understand this better than anyone. This is not an end, but a natural transition, repeated generation after generation. The thought is inevitable. These animals are built to face adversity. It's not just about physical strength, although they have that in abundance. It is also a collective will, a tenacity engraved in their instinct. Year after year, without exception, they are willing to travel hundreds of kilometers to defy hunger, thirst, and the constant threat of predators. They do it because, in their essence, there is no giving up. It is in their gene to walk, always moving forward without looking back. And so, the herd prepares for the return journey. The cycle continues, and with it, the story of these giants who have learned to endure and persevere in one of the most hostile environments on the planet. The buffalo's journey has led us through scenes that portray the harshness of African wildlife. We have seen nightly chases, maternal sacrifices, confrontations with hyenas, crocodiles, and lions, as well as mating rituals that define the continuity of the species. However, it's not necessary to repeat each chapter to understand the essentials. What's clear after this tour is that the African buffalo is not a simple herbivore at the mercy of predators. It is a resilient creature, forged by the harshness of its environment, and established as one of the most impressive symbols of strength in all of nature. Unlike other grassland animals whose only defense is usually flight, the buffalo offers active resistance. He doesn't just run away. He confronts, charges, strikes, and on numerous occasions he manages to force even the most feared hunters to retreat. The courage of a creature that weighs nearly a ton and feeds exclusively on grass is a paradox that both baffles and fascinates. And it is precisely this paradox that makes it an unavoidable protagonist of the African savanna. The buffalo has evolved for survival in every fiber of its body. An adult male is imposing, weighing over 500 kilos and with a height of over 1.7 meters at the withers. Its horns, fused at the base like a natural shield, combine strength and defense, capable of withstanding the most ferocious attacks. Its thick, tough hide disperses bites and cuts, while its dense musculature allows it to travel endless miles without giving in to fatigue. Its digestive system, designed to exploit rough, fibrous grasses, allows it to feed where other herbivores would not find sustenance. Everything in your body aims for a single goal, to resist and endure in a world that does not forgive weakness. But the real test isn't just the predators, it's time and geography. Every 6 months, when drought hits certain regions, buffalo must migrate in search of water and grazing land. They set out in herds that can number thousands. However, the journey is merciless. Of each group that sets out, only a fraction manages to complete the journey. Hunger, thirst, disease, and attacks from predators cause the numbers to dwindle. What may seem like a routine cycle to the viewer is actually an odyssey that only the strongest can overcome. And it is this natural selection repeated over generations that has shaped the buffalo into the imposing beast we know today. The secret of their success lies not only in their individual strength, but in their ability to act as a unit. The buffalo is a social animal that understands the value of the group. When a predator attacks, it's not uncommon to see the entire herd unite in defense, surrounding the most vulnerable or charging at intruders. This cohesion allows them not only to survive, but also to command respect on the savanna. Lions, Africa's largest predators, are aware of this. They won't attack an isolated adult buffalo without considering the risk of paying a high price. And this defensive strategy extends beyond the species. Buffalo coexist with birds like oxpeckers, which free them from parasites, and with other herbivores that share migratory routes, such as zebras and wildebeests. The buffalo doesn't walk alone, it walks with allies, and that further increases its chances of success. It is paradoxical to think that an animal that only consumes grass has reached such physical dimensions. While predators, with their meat-rich diet, grow into formidable hunters, the buffalo has achieved the same from the apparent fragility of leaves and stems. But therein lies the mystery and magic of evolution. Nature is not limited to a single path, but rather pushes each species to explore the limits of what is possible. In the lion, strength is manifested in hunting. In the buffalo, it is in endurance and cooperation. Two different sides of the same coin: survival. The buffalo's role in the ecosystem is irreplaceable. Their massive movements shape landscapes, regulate grass growth, feed predators and scavengers, and maintain a delicate balance in the African web of life. Without their presence, the dynamics of the African savanna would be radically different. The buffalo is not a supporting actor, but rather one of the pillars that sustain this natural setting. And so, after having accompanied these beasts on their journey, what remains is the image of an extraordinary animal capable of traversing dust storms, endless droughts, and lethal ambushes without giving up on moving forward. An animal that embodies courage, strength, and resilience like few creatures in the world. The buffalo isn't just an inhabitant of the savanna, it's the very essence of endurance. No matter how many times it must repeat its journey or how many dangers lie in wait for it along the way, as long as the grass grows again and the rains fall, the buffalo will continue walking, never looking back, carrying with every step the story of a species that has earned its place as one of the most formidable titans of the African wilderness.